She's wrong on the facts. You know, you are right that in the primary this is a winner, but in the general you get slaughtered because 62% of the American people do not want health care for illegal aliens.
It's not free health care for illegals. They can buy into the healthcare system, and they have income requirements like U.S. citizens would.
Jessica Tarlov gets hit with another reality check when she tries to defend the indefensible argument of free health care for illegals. Now, this comes after Gavin Newsom has openly admitted that California does in fact provide free health care to illegal immigrants. Let's get into it.
Well, it looks like Christmas came early for Republicans because the Democrats' so-called 2028 frontrunner just handed them a gift with a bow on it. California Governor Gavin Newsom now proudly admitting that his state gives free health care to illegal immigrants. Jessica, I'm wondering, if Democratic leaders are openly proud of providing taxpayer-funded health care to illegal immigrants, like, what do you say to the voters out there who are struggling with their own care? I think I just read something like ambulance care in California is going up 382%.
Well, that's a pretty exact number if you were just casually reading it. I love the specificity. So my understanding of the program that Gavin Newsom is talking about is that it's not free health care for illegals. They can buy into the healthcare system, and they have income requirements like U.S. citizens would. And the truth is that every state in America gives health care to illegals. It's just whether you do it in an emergency room or whether they have an insurance. And when you go to an emergency, well, it is true. Anyone can show up in an emergency room and they're going to get treated. It's just going to cost you a lot more. And there are tons of studies.
Cost too?
Jessica doesn't understand the program at all, yet she'll still sit up there and try to defend it, willfully ignoring the fact that illegal immigrants are receiving free health care in California. And the only reason Newsom is even considering this program is to attempt to make up for some of the state's revenue, because California's deficit is far beyond $12 billion. Now, I wonder how that could have happened.
Major Governor Gavin Newsom announced earlier this morning that California is currently facing a deficit of over $12 billion. And in order to ease some of these economic concerns and make up for the state revenue, he's proposing scaling back on a state program that allows undocumented immigrants to receive free health care. And this would apply to anyone living in the country illegally over 19 years or older. And this would also start as of January 2026. And what this means is that anyone who is already enrolled wouldn't necessarily be kicked out, but they would have to pay a monthly premium of $100. And what this also means is that any new enrollees would be banned from subscribing or entering this health program as of 2026.
It's not free health care for illegals. They can buy into the healthcare system, and they have income requirements like U.S. citizens would. And the truth is that every state in America gives health care to illegals. It's just whether you do it in an emergency room or whether they have an insurance. And when you go to an emergency, well, it is true. Anyone can show up in an emergency room and they're going to get treated. It's just going to cost you a lot more. And there are tons of studies.
That cost who?
The country, the state, the country. Yeah, but that's not what Gavin Newsom is saying. The people that he's talking about actually have insurance that they pay for, like you or I do. They're just undocumented. And if you think that it's going to be some huge own in the primary, like defund the police to say that you believe in universal health care, sorely mistaken. If you talk to Republican voters even, or at least moderate Republican voters, and said, do you think it would be a better situation if people who were here actually had insurance so they weren't just walking into an emergency room with a limb hanging off, and then you have to pay for the totality of that, they would probably err on the side of having insurance.
Jessica is really trying to minimize this by using emergency rooms as an example. Yes, of course, anyone can receive emergency treatment. The only difference is that if you're an American citizen, you're going to get billed for it, hunted down by collection agencies, and your credit's going to be ruined. But if you're, as they like to say, undocumented, you get priority treatment and written off. How can she even pretend those situations are the same?
Jesse, I see you making a lot of faces, so I'm just wondering.
No, I was trying not to make faces.
It didn't work.
No, but she's wrong on the facts. You know, you are right that in the primary this is a winner. But in the general, you get slaughtered because 62% of the American people do not want health care for illegal aliens. 71% of independents do not want health care for illegal aliens for so many reasons. One, financially, it's ridiculous. Also, ethically, you can't say for people that are struggling to pay their own health insurance that you have to pay for a foreigner's health insurance. Also, it's corrupt, because what are you doing? You're just shoveling money to rich insurance companies. And it's illogical, because what you're doing is incentivizing foreigners to come here and get free stuff. Gavin will argue that it's compassionate, but it's not compassionate to the American people. It's actually disrespectful to the American people. You look at this guy, the only thing he has going for him is he looks presidential. Other than that, it's terrible. If you want to hire an actor, go ahead. I mean, Reagan was an actor, but at least he had vision. Every time this guy opens his mouth, he looks like he's trying to wiggle out of trouble.
As it relates to undocked healthcare, yeah, I'm proud of that, because I believe in universal healthcare. You know, others may say it. I did it. We failed on the border. We need to own up to that. Largest border crossing in the Western Hemisphere in my state, spent $1 billion+ to do migrant centers, try to put a lid on things. And it was quite critical, but I tried to do it in a respectful way of the Biden administration. We failed on the border.
And I know that because I spent my whole life wiggling out of trouble.
Do you remember back in 2019 during the Democratic debate when the host asked all the Democratic nominees if their government health care plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants? And every single one of them responded like this.
A lot of you have been talking tonight about these government health care plans that you've proposed in one form or another. This is a show of hands question, and hold them up for a moment so people can see. Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants. With you, Mayor Buttigieg, why?
Every single person on that stage raised their hands, but Jessica wants us to believe that it's not free health care. But I guess she's just doing what Democrats always do in these situations, reframe something the American people clearly oppose as responsible or necessary. For years, Democrats have denied that illegal immigrants were receiving taxpayer-funded health care, and anyone who said otherwise was accused of lying. But now they can't seem to hide it anymore because the costs are exploding, and the evidence has become undeniable. So now they're left with no choice but to defend it. You see, back in April of 2025, Gavin Newsom approved a $2.8 billion bailout for California's Medi-Cal program because the cost went through the roof after expanding coverage to illegal immigrants. And apparently there's about 1.6 million non-citizens who are now enrolled, but that number has probably changed since then. You see, the program was supposed to cost around $6 billion for 2024 to 2025, but as you could probably guess, that just wasn't enough. And now the cost has already jumped to about $8.4 billion in just a year, and it's projected to cost around $7.4 billion by 2026. But of course, I'm sure that number will change too. And if that wasn't bad enough, did you know Newsom also asked for a $3.4 billion loan from the general fund to cover a $6.2 billion shortfall? The truth is, undocumented immigrants aren't paying into the healthcare system like Jessica claims, nor are they paying insurance premiums or payroll taxes. So please tell me, how exactly are they contributing to Medicare or Medicaid? They're not. That money comes straight from the American taxpayer. In states like California and Minnesota, they receive SNAP benefits, medical coverage, housing assistance, driver's license, you know, the all-inclusive package, fully funded by the American taxpayer. That can't even be disputed anymore. Gavin Newsom admitted it's costing billions, and that's just for California. Jessica should be absolutely ashamed of herself for trying to defend this. She really wants us to believe that this is what Americans want? Meanwhile, so many of our American senior citizens struggle to even afford health care or medication, and some are even denied altogether, which I personally think should be completely unacceptable, especially in a country that seems to have endless money for everyone else. Do you know how insulting it is to tell people that have paid into the system their entire lives that there's no money for them, while at the same time, benefits for people who entered the country illegally get expanded? It's so frustrating to hear stories of elderly spouses being denied Medicare coverage, families having to ration medications, people having to watch their loved ones suffer, while Democrats argue that providing benefits to non-citizens is a moral necessity. I just feel like if liberals believe so strongly in providing healthcare to illegal immigrants, then they should absolutely fund it, privately. Seriously, why don't they create a voluntary fund and let celebrities, politicians, and activists contribute their own money instead of forcing hardworking Americans to pay for policies that we overwhelmingly reject? Now, we all know that'll never happen because it's much easier to spend other people's money. I just can't seem to remember when freeloading became an American value. I get it, charity is voluntary, but taxes are mandatory. And at the end of the day, we the American taxpayer don't owe illegal aliens health care. And yeah, some might say that's cruel, but it's not. It's common sense. What country in the world is expected to provide full social benefits to people who aren't legal residents? Exactly. So why should we be an exception? That's just backwards. And I just want to be clear about one other thing. Nothing the government provides is free. Not healthcare, not housing, not food assistance, nothing. Every dollar comes from us, the taxpayer. They just call it free as a way to hide who's actually paying for it.